This is my DUI, where they claim they were sitting on East Creek, but there's a big dent in my back, of the back of my car, and I'm hoping that some computer or somebody would be able to tell how this has been altered, because he was never this close to us. His first documentation also stated that I totally left the left-hand side of the road and he followed me for half a mile. Well, if that's true, he endangered his community. Then endangered it again when he left me back in my car after illegally arresting me and taking me off camera to try to say that I blew into the breathalyzer. I just don't have any other option. This road is not this long. There should have been a reflection on that car had that been my car. Now I believe it's my car, where he just turns the lights on after he gets to the edge of the driveway. I had gotten out and talked to him. But there ain't no way he'd seen my passenger seat unless he was at the only light on that road, which was at the hospital. You see, I still have a bruise back from September 28th. I'm not sure if you can see it real well because I'm a little dark skinned, but I had varicose veins as well that I had never had. And I know my heart don't act right because both my legs swell up all the time. And hopefully there's at least one spot on this that will be able to blow up so that you can see the bruise that here at the end of May 2014, it's still bruised from the 5 hours that I have no idea what happened to me and no legal rest. This is the shirt I had on when I was tasered. If you look at it, we have one taser mark here. And this is the 2 taser marks on the front of this shirt to prove that at least I don't believe that the state police have access to the tasers that at the jail they're handheld tasers. So as soon as I find the marks in the back of the shirt that actually show exactly the width of the bruise that I still have between September, I don't think you can see it without being in the dark, but I still have that same exact bruise, the same width of those 2 taser marks on the back of that shirt, where another bruise was the same width as that one. Here, I'll put the shirt on to prove to you exactly where the taser mark was. But I must have had my shirt up a little because it went in right here. And that was viewed in a picture earlier. The other one went into my belly, which I'd showed you on pictures earlier. And the one on the back should still be able to be viewed as red or white with my skin. It's quite interesting how my name turned to Billie Atkinson instead of Billie Sue throughout this process. And here, here I was diagnosed on the date of 11/1/2013 when this injury happened September 27th. Here I was finally diagnosed with a concussion and an anxiety from that. Well, when you're used to having your brain work a certain way and you have brain damage now, anybody that intimidates or stresses you out, that would be anxiety. Here is the most recent thing that I've finally gotten a little medical attention for, and this wasn't until April 11th from the September 27th tasering. And again, now we have my name, Billie S. This is what they say is wrong. And I can't pronounce those words. But I've been in extreme pain since this tasering. My health has been horrible. So I'm going to do a little Google search of what this comes up with. Here we have looked up move my mouse. Here we have looked up annual tear, the symptoms and the causes, and this is from the Laser Spine Institution. So I figured that would be a good one to look up. Annual tears it seems to be that it can come from the natural process of aging. Well, I've been diagnosed osteoporosis since I was 24. I'm now 45. I'm sure tasering did not help this. If we go to the symptoms, since the outer wall of this whatever thing is highly inverted, patients with an annual tear could experience a great deal of pain. This condition, which is called the tear extends. I guess you'll just have to pause there. Some of the symptoms, what we looked at, it also said herniated disc. And all these things are extremely painful that I have been dealing with without medical professions listening to me. Weakness in the arms and legs, numbness and tingling. And I have experienced all of these, and often. Extreme pain most of the time. The causes seem to be traumatic injury can cause annual tears, which is typically seen in the participation of high-impact sports such as gymnastics or football, and in people with strenuous occupations. Well, I was in the military and they told me I had a joint disability, and I started having severe problems when I was in the military. Tasering me is definitely made me more physically disabled than I ever was before. Those experience these symptoms should see a specialist, because they say there's several options, though the pain associated with this can be quite debilitating for the patients. Severe treatment options are available. Several treatment options. Well, I'm not being offered any of these. Let's go back to the other one and this one here shows us several different varieties. Is it a radial tear that is caused by natural aging process? That's when it begins in the center of the disc and extends all the way through the outer layer of this fibrosis. These tears can cause disc to herniate, which occurs when the center nucleus of the disc extrudes through the tear of the outside of the disc. But the next one is this peripheral tears. These tears occur in the outer fibers, and I think mine looks like it's in the outer. And usually brought on by traumatic injury or contact with a bone spur. Well, nobody said anything about a bone spur, so it's definitely traumatic injury that has caused my problem. Can lead to the degeneration and breakdown of the intravertebral discs. Well, yay, that sounds... And this officer that tasered me is not being consequenced. Alright, this is the write-up of when they looked at my neck. And the date would be April 9th, 2014. By the time I could get anybody to look at, listen to me, I was in too much pain. So we've got, let's see, the spinal cavity. It looks like we have several problems with it. But the impression portion, spinal canal and right whatever at C5, C6, secondary to combination of disc bulge, vertebral osteophyte formation, and right unconvertebral joint hypertrophy. Disc bulging at C6 and C7 along with left side unvertebral joint hypertrophy. The findings narrow the left neural foramen at this level. Left C3 and 4 neural formal narrowing secondary to unconvertebral joint hypertrophy. And this one was for neck pain and decreased range of motion. Like I said, I couldn't even get treatment with it until after I kept searching for treatment in 3 different counties. This one goes along with my framed, well, at least what I feel is framed, because blood work's not supposed to come up positive with paperwork, or you can't get a DUI if you're sober. So right after my DUI, I had an x-ray, same hospital, And this happened, my DUI happened actually the early morning of July 4th, 2013, just 2 months prior to being tasered without breaking the law. And I was totally sober. They just say here that there's no bruising. Well, my family doctor that I'd seen back there says, I mean, you could actually, he witnessed my tailbone being black and blue, and he is also an MD and had put that back in. So I never had any physical real problems other than external bruising after the DUI done by the Blossburg Police in Tioga County. I was sent to a foot specialist for foot pain, but really they say that's just arthritis. These were the instructions from the next day after my DUI, done by Wellsboro Hospital. And it says that sacroiliitis is actually caused by many factors. Heavy lifting, which I've been disabled for years, don't do. Traumatic injury or fall or vehicle accident. Degenerative arthritis, pregnancy, or infection of the joint. That's interesting. And home care, it's contact, a doctor if it's increasing low back pain, weakness, numbness in one or both legs, loss of bowel or bladder control, which occasionally if I have had a little of that. Numbness, so I'm definitely having symptoms that are much worse when it actually, I believe, it started right here. They also say that I have osteoarthritis. Well, I was diagnosed in, 95 with osteoarthritis. So that I had already had actually medical, my medical records, if weren't lost when I was in the military, already said degenerative joint disease and osteoporosis. But for the most part, I could still do things without pain every day until later that day. Here is the family doctor, Troy Community Hospital, is where I used, but this is where they got my name correctly, Billie Sue. The date on this, done by Angela. She was who I seen right after being tasered on 9/30/2013. She did some x-rays, and all of a sudden I have some evidence that there is slight posterior spurring. I've never had these problems prior to being tasered. My head, I couldn't even get the blood out of my hair from that tasering when I walked in. And I had to leave this office afterwards. They were just saying degenerative changes in disc disease at C5 or C6, C6 and C7. Narrowing at C6 and narrowing something. And to a lesser extent, the right, whatever that word is, at C5 and 6 due to unvertebral joint. Yeah. No evidence of fracture, dislocation, or destructive iosis pathology. But I was tickled that they at least found something, but they all kept referring me back to my family doctor.